Hello everyone, welcome to ICAD number 4 with DeeDee Catron. I am starting here with a 3" by 5" index card, and if you're not sure about how big that is, cut yourself a little piece of paper and check it out, because I have found that working on these smaller projects is really awesome, and I really think it's my thing. I'm not focusing on filling a huge canvas or an art journal spread or anything like that. I just get to play on these little cards. So using an Unwell Studio stencil and some Blick gesso, which is really thick and I love it. It has lots of texture. I put some texture in the background of my card, and it's the Unwell Studio stencil is called Tick Marks, and it's these really cool sort of jagged, uneven lines. Very, very cool. And I used a spatula. It's called a Catalyst tool by Princeton. So it's a really, really cool tool. I love it. It's silicone based. So I just let my mediums dry on it and then they peel right off. Also, I flattened out some areas of my tick marks just to add in some variety. I do have these tick marks all over the background, but I wanted a little bit of contrast in there. So I flattened out some of them and kind of created some almost like planes in the background. Like, like yeah, I'm just planes. And then I made sure that was completely dry. And I did use my heat gun. So in some areas, the gesso even kind of bubbled up a little bit, which is even cooler. And it's great. I just made sure it was completely dry because I'm going to flood this card with water now. I want my acrylic to really move around and have a lot of fluidity to it. And so if I flood the card while the gesso is still wet, then the gesso will just pop off and bubble and I'm not going to get what I want. So I made sure it was dry and then I flooded it with water, clean water. And now I'm using these two paints by Holbein. They are heavy body acrylics. One is called Luminous Opera, that more pink one, and then the one that has a tiny tinge of purple to it is Luminous Rose. And these are amazing, beautiful paints. I can't believe how pretty they are. And this is way out of my, I would say, comfort zone using these specific colors, but when I saw them on the shelf, actually Donna Downey showed them to me first, I had to have them, and then to kind of reel it in so that I'm not going crazy and making myself insane working with something I'm not used to, then I decided to use just these two colors together and then add in neutrals. So I'm not trying to work with colors that are out of my comfort zone and color combos. So even though the colors I don't use all that often, the color combo, by keeping it sort of monochromatic and in the same color family, then I was a lot more comfortable working on this card. So I did add a little bit of water to those and sort of spread them out. And when you do things like this, I really love to make the texture and all of that pattern that we worked on in the background shine. Like, I love all of that. Texture is totally my jam. I was just talking, I just did an art journal video and with a very similar technique, just using fluid acrylics in the background. And it is wonderful. I love it. So now I have put a little bit of Dina Wakley's heavy body paint, acrylic, heavy body acrylic. It's called Elephant, into the bottom of my cup, my little plastic cup, and I added some water to water it down. Then I thought the gray was a little bit too light and a little bit too warm for these colors I was working on. I wanted a bit more contrast. So I took my fine liner, and my fine liner has half airbrush medium and then a quarter golden fluid titanium white and golden fluid carbon black. So it was like a nice medium toned gray, and I mixed that in with the gray that I already had going on in the bottom of my cup. Total custom paint job there. I'm sorry that I don't have more specifics on getting that exact color, but you should have fun experimenting with your colors and picking different tones, and sometimes they're warmer, sometimes they're cooler, and it's fun. It's a really great way to make your art you as well, having fun and mixing your own colors. So do I think you always have to do that? No, definitely not. If you find a beautiful color in a paint and it comes right out of the tube, why not? Then half the work is done for you. Anyways, I used that kind of cool gray that I worked up to highlight the texture, and basically I covered the whole thing and then I washed the paint off the top surface, so then it was down in the recesses, and my texture still wasn't showing up good enough for me, and I really wanted it to pop. So I got back out that heavy gesso, and the gesso itself does not say heavy on it. It's by Blick, but it comes in this giant tub, and it is like, it has a lot of body to it, so it's really cool. It's not as fluid as like a Liquitex or a golden gesso. And I'm using my finger to highlight all of that texture that I created in the background. And it looks really white in the video, but hopefully you saw in the close-up shots at the beginning of the video, and then I'll put them again at the end. There you go. It's not as crazy as it looks further away. So it is a very, very cool technique. Now I've gotten out, and I set everything to dry, and then I came back, and I have some carbon black fluid acrylic by Golden, and this is the same stuff that is in my fine liners, and I'm using it to bring in some kind of really bold areas. I really like, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups, and I'm always drawn to people's artwork that has these like big sections of black on their projects, and then they have like some white themes or some white patterns on the inside, mark making basically. So I thought that I would give that a try today. And I always do like I'll have one section of black maybe in the bottom left corner, and then I'll want another one on the right hand side, like a coordinating section. So that's what I was trying to do at the top there. And because I'm used to working on a very large surface, 9 inches by 12 inches, which is probably like 6 times the size of this, I went way too big at first. So I put it down, but the great thing about acrylic paint, as long as it's pretty wet, then you can still wipe it back. So that's what I did. I wasn't happy with how the top portion was coming out, so I just got it wet and wiped it away. And I'm able to come back in now, and I'm going to add some really big, fun, funky, huge like dots. They're very cool. And a couple of them, I think they get too far over to the right or to the left, I guess, when the card's turned over the right way. So again, I just get them wet and wipe them back. And I do have to be a little bit careful because there is so much texture happening on this card. Sometimes the paint may get a little stuck if I'm not quick enough with it. But that's always just one more portion of the layer as well. I decide I'll pull these dots further down into the bottom. And one of my favorite things about working with acrylics is as long as it's wet, it still has a lot of mobility, and you can really change things. Did a tiny bit of splattering with some of that black paint that was left over. You can never go wrong with splattering some paint. That's one of the things I always tell my art journalers. When it comes to creating cohesion in a piece, if you have one huge block of color and you're worried that it sort of sticks out, then you can splatter some of those same colors in a different section and of the project. It'll turn out really well. And now I'm using my white Sharpie paint pen, water-based, to create some little kind of like plus signs, just doing some mark making in these beautiful black areas that I've put on my card. And I did plus signs and dots on the really big one. And then when I get to the actual black polka dot pattern, I'm going to try one thing that I end up not liking that much. Oh, no. Let's see. I apologize. Okay, so actually I picked 3 of them, and I did the plus signs in 3 of them. And I do love that. And then I sort of just kind of filled one with some dots, and I wasn't really having it, so I wiped it back as much as I could, but because the paint marker dries so quickly, I didn't get a chance to wipe it all away. That's all right. I can just recover those dots with black, and then no one ever even knows unless they watch this video. The secrets. Oh, the secrets. I'm loving so much how my index cards are turning out. I can't wait to put them. I'm going to like put them up on the wall in a huge grid pattern. It's going to be such a cool installation piece. All right, and then I thought I would circle up some of these, bring back in some of that white. This is what I was saying, the color combos that are comfortable for me to work in are colored families, or the colors are next to each other on the color wheel, and then to really highlight it with neutrals. So I did gray, and then I did white, and then I did black, and now I'm coming back in with white. So the neutrals really help me personally tone my projects, and then they're very aesthetically pleasing to me. So I did sew my card. All my index cards, they are pretty thin, and so I'm trying on every one of them to add a second layer of paper somewhere. This one I hadn't added a second layer of paper yet, so I just put the exact same size index card right behind it and then stitched around the edge with really thick black thread. It's quilting thread. And then I used the Sharpie to go between the thread and the edge of the card with a row of dots, really fine dots. And I added some dots in a few of the circles that I had already played with earlier. And then I also did some handwriting on that sort of like little hill area. All right. Thank you so much for joining. And if you have any questions or any concerns or comments, please post them below. It might take me a day or two, but I always respond to all comments. I'm so glad you're joining me here. Stay tuned for ICAD number 5, and please subscribe to my channel. See you around.